Ball game.
Good morning, and welcome to Take Me Out to the Ball Game as we try to get you caught up in the world of sports in just a flash, and we hit the ground running today. Let's go ahead and finish up the Summer Olympics as the United States reigns supreme with 113 medals. That's 113 medals. China with 88. They finish in second place by, 25 medals. And the Russian Olympic Committee, it's so weird seeing the ROC on the line. I'm so used to seeing the USSR. They finished with 71 medals in third place by a lot. Gold medals, the United States ends up barely beating out China 39-38. So not only did the U.S. get the most medals, they also got the most gold medals. So there you have that. U.S. finished with 41 silver and 33 bronze. So Summer Olympics are done. And we expect to see the 2022 Olympics, the Winter Olympics, in just about 6 months. So we get ready for that. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the world of Major League Baseball. It's Monday, so it's time to get you caught up in the standings. And this is what it looks like right now. The Tampa Bay Rays have slowly but surely taken a 4-game lead in the American League East. The Boston Red Sox are free falling. They have lost 8 of their last 10. And the Yankees are just 2.5 behind Boston. They will face each other not this week, but next week, early next week. So we look forward to that. The Yankees, by the way, they've won 8 of their last 10. So they have made quite the surge. And looking at the rest of the races, AL Central, it's a wrap. White Sox are up by 10.5 games on Cleveland. I don't see a situation where the White Sox are going to just collapse. The AL West, it's gotten a little more interesting. Oakland, just 2 games behind Houston for the AL West. Seattle is 7.5 out. You look at the National League East, the Phillies have now pole vaulted in front of the Mets. They went into the weekend a half game out. They sweep the Mets in Philadelphia. Atlanta wins 2 of 3 in Atlanta versus Washington. So the standings now look like this. Phillies in first, Atlanta's in second, 2 behind Philadelphia. And the New York Mets are now in third place. They have lost 8 of their last 10. Milwaukee, they are now just 5 games in front of the Cincinnati Reds. Remember when the Reds made those trades? And even I questioned whether or not they were smart trades. It could get interesting. Milwaukee and Cincinnati, this thing could get interesting. I still believe Milwaukee's going to prevail. I still believe my heart of hearts, Milwaukee might have the best team in baseball. But they're only 5 games in front of Cincinnati. When you get to that 5 mark, I don't feel like anything's safe. One bad week, and you could be looking upside down. Now, in the National League West, the San Francisco Giants have actually made some ground. They are 4 in front of the LA Dodgers and 7.5 of the San Diego Padres. So what does this mean for the wild card? This is where you're going to be looking at for the next several weeks, because as we go down the wire, and what are we, about 6 weeks left in the season? So it really is crunch time. This is where we find out who really is deserving of the playoffs, because you have to play well down the stretch against teams who are fighting for their playoff lives and others who just want to play spoilers. And this is where you really find out who has the heart of a champion. So right now, we mentioned Tampa, Chicago, and Houston lead their divisions, so we'll put that aside. Oakland leads the wild card now, the first wild card. They have actually catapulted in front of Boston by a half game. But for all intents and purposes, well, I'm sorry, a full game. For all intents and purposes, they are the two right now. If it were to end today, Oakland would host Boston for the 1-game play-in. But the New York Yankees are hot on the Red Sox tail, only 2.5 back. The Toronto Blue Jays are only 3 behind Boston. And Seattle's way in the back. I didn't really think Seattle had much of a chance of winning this thing. Too many teams to jump in front of, but they are still technically in the race. 9.5 back total, but they are 5.5 back of the final wild card. So they've got a chance, but they would have to play flawless baseball down the stretch. Nationally, San Fran, Milwaukee, and Philly lead it. In the wild card, it realistically is just all about the West at this point. It's the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. The Dodgers are 3.5 in front for the final wild card. San Diego is 2.5 in front for the second wild card, just 2.5 in front of Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, though 5 back in the division, they have a fighting chance to maybe catch San Diego. So that will be very interesting. A lot of it's going to have to do with whether or not Fernando Tatis can come back soon. They're talking about making him a center fielder to keep down on the number of throws that he would make as opposed to shortstop. And that's pretty much it. When you talk about the rest of the National League, the teams in the East, they're so far behind for the wild card. I don't really think that you can make any kind of a strong argument. I mean, you're talking about the Atlanta Braves being 6 games back in the loss column of the San Diego Padres. That's a big, big jump to have to make. So right now, as we sit here on Monday, August 9th, I believe that those are the teams that you can pay attention to. If you're going to make it in the East, Mets, Braves, Phillies, you got to win your division. It's just all there is to it. All right, let's go ahead and transition real quick. And I'm going to end this show today with something near and dear to my heart. Now, normally I do on this date in history, but the great Bobby Bowden, or Robert Kleckler Bowden, he passed away yesterday, and this is a tough one for me. This was my first sports hero. He's one of the reasons why I wanted to do what I do right now to this day, is that I grew up falling in love with the world of sport. And Bobby Bowden and his Florida State Seminole football team was one of the first true loves that I ever had in my life that wasn't family. Since a little child, I met Bobby Bowden. I'm guesstimating it because my dad could never remember what year it was because I asked about him years later. I'm guesstimating it was around 1977, maybe 1978. So I was somewhere around 4 years old, maybe 5 years old. I don't really remember. But by then, Bobby Bowden had been at Florida State. For some reason, I think it was after the 77 season, because he had such a great second year at Florida State starting in 76. He in 76, he won 4 games. That sounds terrible. You're like, man, I'm surprised they didn't run him out. Florida State had won 3 games the previous, or no, I'm sorry, they'd won 4 games the previous 3 years. They'd gone 4-29 from 1973, 74, and 75. So he comes in and doubles the win total from the year before, winning 4 in 76. So they're like, all right, let's go. But what they saw was a promise. They saw a promise of a team that was coming together, a young team that was learning together. He started getting his recruits. In 77 is when Bowden really took off, and he went from a total of a 5-6 total, but it was 4 that he always mentioned, because one of the games was a cupcake. So he truly won 5 games in 76, but they always reference it as him winning 4. But he won 5 games in 76, or he always referenced it as winning 4. He won 5 games in 76, and then in 77, he went 10-2, including a win in the Tangerine Bowl. He then went 8-3 in 78. He went 11-1 in 79, losing in the Orange Bowl, and 10-2 in 1980, losing the Orange Bowl. Okay. With all that being said, he then took a dip with Florida State in 81, going to 6-5, and everyone thought the sky was falling because at the same time, the University of Florida was playing really well. Well, we come to find out later that there was a big payment scandal that was going down. And so Florida went on probation. But to continue the story of Bobby Bowden, he then starts building the team throughout the early to mid 80s, 9-3, 8-4. After the 86 season, they won the All-American Bowl against Indiana. And I remember going into that next year, we were excited. We were excited. We knew this team could be really good. We didn't know what we were about to see, but we knew this team was going to be really good. We knew that Bowden had built a program. He had been there officially 10 years, from 76 to 85. And by that 10th year, he had built a program. In 1986, he had gone 7-4-1 and won the Fiesta Bowl, but it was a team that was actually pretty darn good. Had some heartbreaking losses, et cetera, et cetera. In 87, they go 11-1 and win the Fiesta Bowl, losing to Miami in a heartbreaking 2-point conversion loss. In 88, same story. Florida State 11-1, Sugar Bowl. In 89, 10-1, won the Fiesta. In 90, 10-2, won the Blockbuster Bowl against Penn State and Jopa. In 91, he beats A&M in the Cotton Bowl. In 92, they go 11-1 and win the Orange, beating Nebraska. And that was a prelude to what was going to happen the next year in 1993, after rebounding from a 1 touchdown loss in Notre Dame. Florida State would go on to win the rest of their games. Notre Dame would fall to Boston College, and Florida State would go to the Orange Bowl in a nail biter, and Bowden would win it all for the first time ever. One of the greatest games you'll ever see. Florida State was a huge favorite and has to kick a game-winning field goal in the same stadium where they were stake bitten with the wide right. He has to go in two wide rights already. He is the same goalpost, and Scott Bentley hits the game-winning field goal. Nebraska gets the ball back. We think the game's over, and they put 1 second back on the clock to set up a 47-yard field goal that sails wide left. It wasn't ever close. But you can imagine Florida State fans are like, they're going to try to screw us, right? They're screwing us. They're screwing us again. Bowden famously said that he looked up in the heavens right before the kick and said, God, if you don't want me to win one, just say so, which is just a classic line. And then, of course, we won't go through every single one of his years, but from 87 to 2000, finished in the top 5 for 14 consecutive years. That is a feat that will never, ever, ever, ever be touched again. It never happened before. It'll never happen again. As dominant as Alabama has been for the last 10 to 15 years, they haven't done it. They've missed a year or two out of the top 5. It is an incredible feat. It is incredible. It is, when you talk about what was Bobby Bowden, and this is his statue right here, what it was Bobby Bowden, it was consistency of excellence is what Bobby Bowden was. And so we say goodbye to one of the greatest of all time. And in my opinion, the greatest college football coach of the 20th century. It's not even close because he built it. He didn't walk into an already very good football program at Penn State like Joe Paterno did. Alabama already had a football program when Bear Bryant showed up from Kentucky. Now, you can't argue that he made it great, but Alabama had already, quote unquote, won their national championships that they claim in newspapers. About the only one that you could maybe put at the same level was Knute Rockne, but because of his plane crash, he never had the length of a career. Bobby Bowden not only built Florida State football, put that aside. If you don't like Florida State, I get it, whatever. He was an innovator of offense. Bobby Bowden was an innovator of offense. I remember the Buffalo Bills used to come down and watch Bowden's practices as they were forming and perfecting the Kelly gun when Jim Kelly was up in Buffalo. It was because of Charlie Ward and his unique ability as a basketball player to run a no-huddle offense that they created what they created with the Florida State offense. There was a high-flying, no-huddle. You had to be ready to roll offense. It was innovative for the time, and it was very difficult to plan against because you had to have the superior athletes, and Florida State had the superior athletes. Their defense was very basic under Mickey Andrews. But the one thing they did was they put pressure on the football from all sides, coming at all sides, and they went out and they got. And the other thing that the Bowden did that was innovative that Miami followed suit at the same time was in the early to mid 80s. He started putting his best athletes on defense, and that had never happened before, which is why when you see these old clips of football runs and these running backs are running through all these defenses, and like, man, that guy was really fast. No, he was actually going up against guys who were really slow. Florida State was one of the very first. This is why Florida State and Miami were so dominant at the time. They were the two schools that before anyone else said, we're going to have to put our elite athletes on defense. Now, Florida started following suit because they're like, if we're going to have any chance of beating Florida State, we got to have faster defensive players. But it was when Deion Sanders came to Florida State, who originally everyone thought was going to be a receiver. They had the fortitude to say, you know what, Deion, you want to play defensive back? Let's try it. Let's go ahead and put you out there, even though we would love to see what your offense could do. And the rest is history. Deion Sanders is the greatest defensive back of all time. Shortly after that same time period, Derek Brooks, one of the greatest linebackers to ever live. And the biggest testament to Bobby Bowden is this, not just what he did through his FCA and through his family. Those have been well documented. But what I always love to see about Bobby Bowden, is why I'll always hold him near and dear to my heart, not only how nice he was to me when I met him as a small child, listen to me for ramble on, who the hell knows what I was saying, some nonsense at the age of around 4 years old. And he had people coming over, pulling at his coattails, and he was kind of saying, hey, stop for a second. I'm talking to a young man. He listened to every little stupid thing I had to say. Well, I don't even know what the hell I said, but I just remember my dad eventually saying it's enough. I probably rattled on for 2 minutes or whatever, right? And he shook my hand and he said, I'll see you in, I don't remember. He said, I'll see you in 15 years or something like that, right? Joking like I would play for Florida State, but I was so excited because he took the time to listen to me. We'll also fast forward that to where you would see him when he would show up and his ex-players. This tells you more about a coach than anything else. When his ex-players talk about what they got out of being around him and how they changed, how he changed his life, changed their lives, excuse me, not just in the realm of football, but how he changed their lives as men. Our hearts go out to the Bowden family, and there's going to be a lot of celebrations this coming weekend. I'm hoping they televise some of it, maybe on the ACC network. That has yet to be announced, but we'll see what happens. Have a great day, y'all. And if you do want to check it out, we did put a video together for the career of Bobby Bowden, so to speak, with an old song that was released in the late 70s as teams are trying to pluck him away from Florida State. They made a song, a little local band made a song called Bobby Bowden, the Ballad of Bobby Bowden. The whole thing was, Bobby Bowden, you're the coach for me. Bobby Bowden, please stay in Tallahassee. He will always be in Tallahassee. He will always be in our hearts. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, y'all. Take me out to the bone.